Hey everybody! As promised, here are some comic reviews for February 24th, 2016. First, we have All New Inhumans number 4. This issue finishes off the Sin Kong arc, as Naja and Crystal's ground forces have to face the Commissar head-on, while Swain does mental battle with an Inhuman that's become a living dream. The sequences featuring the living dream carry on the same style from last issue, and is spectacularly creepy and works really well. However, one gripe I have with the new Inhumans comics is that they keep on adding more and more characters to the cast. I know people are afraid that they're going to replace the XMen at some point. I don't think that'll happen, but they're definitely learning from the school of adding way too many people to the cast. Speaking of the X-Men, next we have All New X-Men number 5. This issue continues right where the last one left off, with Wolverine bleeding to a bloody pulp as the Blob continues his rampage across Paris. This issue is constructed in kind of a weird way. You wouldn't think it works on paper, but it does surprisingly well. See, the whole series is about the X-Teens trying to figure out what it means to be a young person and be a mutant and be everything they are in the world as it is now. And that's interspliced with a bunch of superhuman battles. And this issue takes it quite literally, because, for example, you've got Evan and Bobby is talking about what it means for him to be gay and how that's infecting his friendship, and you've got Heidi having a really loud yelling fight in a church with the statue of Jesus and trying to come to terms with her religion. So you've got all of that really deep introspective stuff. But after a few pages, each one gets interrupted by the Blob literally crashing through the wall, and everyone just going, okay, well, let's put this conversation on hold and try and stop this guy. So it's kind of funny in retrospect. Reading it, it really carries you along, and so it all works out quite well, and I definitely recommend this one. We also have the new Avengers number 7, and this one is one of my favorite comics that I'm reading right now by Marvel, just because it's so ridiculous. I love pretty much anything that Al Ewing puts out, and the cast is great. This one specifically, though, focuses on Power Man and White Tiger, as you can probably tell by the tigers on the cover. This issue also brings the Maker back into the picture after the non-villain that Morai Dunn was, so I really like that. He's just very charismatic and really effing creepy to read. Also, the artwork took a really good step up. I haven't been too fond of it in previous issues just because it's so bulky and nasty, but this one is very clean cut, and the fight sequences are really easy to follow, which is pretty important in a comic such like this. I'd also recommend this as a good starting point for new readers because, again, it focuses on a smaller section of the cast, and also it comes right off the heels of another storyline, so there's not a lot of backstory and exposition you need, and what is provided in the comic. So you aren't going in completely blind. Speaking of big kitties, we also have Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, number 3. I've really enjoyed this series since it started, but this one loses a bit of the momentum it had before. It establishes who the big bad of the series is going to be in the first few pages, but after that it's basically just a villain of the month story. It's not bad by any means. It is just as good as the previous issues, but that's kind of the problem. It is just as good as the previous issues. It doesn't do a lot to build on what's been laid by the last two, so there is a little tidbit that the story is going to pick up a bit more on the next issue, but this one itself is just kind of filler. Next we have the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl number 5, which is also the conclusion of the recent time travel arc. And this is something that the arc I feel could have used another issue just because there is such a heavy info dump of exposition at the beginning, and it's not exactly done with a lot of grace, but after that we get a rip-roaring, hilarious, ridiculously over-the-top, perfectly, beautifully executed Squirrel Girl conclusion that is exactly the kind of thing that I have come to expect from this comic, and that is why I love it so much. We've also got Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, guest starring the totally awesome Hulk. And despite all of those ridiculous words I just said, this might be one of the saddest Marvel series out there right now, just because you really feel for the titular Moon Girl, Lunella, as she's battling a lot of people just shoving her to the side because they decide she's just a kid and she doesn't really know what she's talking about, when we, the audience, already know that she's the smartest person around. And also, they take away her pet dinosaur! That's so mean! Next we have Silk number 5. This issue is not bad, but a lot of it, for the most part, is just picking up the pieces of what happened in the previous issue, with Silk being infected by the Goblin virus, and then basically going crazy and sent to kill Black Cat. And as she traipses across the city, she runs into the mysterious skull-faced guy from the past few issues, while all of her friends worry about her. But eventually we do get some major plot happenings at the end, and Shrike is finally dealt with, which is good, because I found him really annoying, and I'm very pleased to see him out of the picture. And most of it, though, is just a denouement of the last issue and then build up for the next one. But the next one looks like we're going to have a big conclusion to this Black Cat arc, and so I'm excited to read that one. We've also got Venom Spaceknight number 7, and is Venom part of the Spider family anymore? I mean, I think they purged the Spider DNA from the symbiote, and now it's a good guy, and now he's kind of the chosen one superhero going around saving a bunch of people and planets from evil, and It's kind of complicated and weird. But the point is, this is also another good jumping on comic because for the past few issues, Venom's just been going around saving people but not having a huge arc to tie it together. There's been some stuff in the background, but nothing really in the foreground. However, in this issue, things finally start coming together as all the pieces fall into place. Plus, Venom gets to team up with Pick Rolo, who is awesome because she is a proud mama, protective panda bear space pirate who he's going to team up with her so that they can rescue her kid, and anything involving space pandas is just inherently awesome. Plus, I really love the artwork in this one. It's like almost not quite photorealistic, and it doesn't fall into the uncanny valley ever, and it looks really good when you deal with the aliens, and again, with the space pandas. Space Pandas! And last with my Marvel comics for the week, we've got Angela Queen of Hell number 5. And this is the big showdown, people. It's Angela's squad versus Hell's forces, and an all-out battle to see who's going to be the Queen of Hell. And let me tell you, this comic has everything. Action, romance, beautiful artwork, IKEA furniture, a dog that can only say the word entrails. I highly recommend it. And finally, I've got an Image comic, Cry Havoc number 2. Cry Havoc is a really interesting comic just in the way it's made because it takes place in 3 different time periods, and each time period is designated by having a different colorist. So the 3 artworks really help set the tone and feel of the book. The book was marketed with the plot of lesbian werewolf goes to war, but it's a bit more complex than that. It's about a girl named Lou from London who finds out that she's like the embodiment of the Black Dog legend, and she meets up with a bunch of other people who are embodiments of different supernatural creatures and legends and myths. But that premise really doesn't belie the fact that it is very graphic in both a sexual and violent nature, so it is not for the faint of heart. However, it does go to show that fairy tales are really influenced, all these stories are influenced by a more primal instinct of humanity. And then after that, there is also this just concept of stories in general, and how humanity thinks of everything in stories, and that's why stories have so much power. So it's definitely an interesting read, if you can stomach a lot of the stuff that happens in it. Well, that's all of the comics that I've got this time around, but check in next week for the next batch. Until then, I'll see you later.